Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Damme and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies. And today I want to tell you about 10 really good horror short films you can watch for free on YouTube right now. So this is about 2 hours worth of short films, all horror, and I'm going to tell you about each one. Spend about a minute on each one. There are links in the description to each one in the order in which I'm talking to them about, so feel free to jump back and forth, watch all my reviews. It's going to take about 10 minutes, and then go binge watch them or just watch the ones that you want. Now we're going to start this list off all the way at the back with one called Reverse. Now this one's only about 5 minutes long, and it takes place in a parking garage, and it largely revolves around a backup camera, and it works. Like, I ranked this one at number 10 because I thought it was a little bit weak. There's not a lot going on, but in 5 minutes you do get some good scares, some good visuals. So this one, I enjoyed it. It deserves to be on this list. It might be a good place to start if you want to watch some short horror movies, but if you've never watched a horror short, don't make this one the first one that you watch. I wanted to include an animated horror movie on this because you don't get those very often, but with shorts you definitely can. This one is about 10 minutes long and it's called The Blackwater Gospel. It features a really creepy but also really cool animation style, and it's a decent story for me. This one was more about just this cool animation style. Ultimately, things get a little nuts in this one and the animation gets even cooler, so I had a good time with this one. The aesthetic and the location stuff, kind of this old western look, really appeals to me personally. If none of that appeals to you personally, it's not like this one has such a great story that you need to watch it anyway, like some of the ones at the top of this list. The next one features everyone's favorite murder weapon. It's titled Chainsaw, and it's actually, I want to say, produced by Eli Roth. Eli Roth presents Chainsaw. This one is basically what would happen if the guy in the haunted house at the fair with the chainsaw was really a madman with a chainsaw. This one is gross. This one's gory. If you love blood, you love tearing flesh, this is a good one for you. I'm fairly certain this one also stars Logan Paul, who, if you don't know, he's one of the more despised, I hate to say that, but he is one of the more despised YouTubers on the face of the planet. Also one of the most popular ones. So it's really odd to see him here, but even if you don't, I'll say if you don't like him, you'll enjoy seeing him in this one, and if you do like him, it's still gonna be cool to see him in this little horror movie. And this next one, How to Be Alone, features some familiar faces. You'll recognize Micah Monroe from It Follows and Joe Keery from Stranger Things, and this one's actually directed by a female director, and she is responsible for writing a big bulk of the Stranger Things series, almost an entire season. And this one doesn't necessarily feel like Stranger Things, but it's got a really cool vibe to it. This one's well acted, very spooky vibe, not necessarily a scary one, but very interesting, and I think this director is going to be capable of pulling off a full feature after having seen this. But again, not my favorite one on the list, but as far as aesthetics go, this one might be the best. Now, Unedited Footage of a Bear is the title of one that Adult Swim actually put on. Now, what I would recommend is forget about the fact that Adult Swim put it on. I only mentioned it because it's actually on the Adult Swim YouTube channel, so forget that they did it, and this one's really spooky. Also imagine that you're up late one night watching cartoons on Adult Swim, and this 10-minute nightmare just comes on TV. It's pretty bonkers, especially if you put yourself in that place. This is one of the crazier ones on the list. If you don't want to watch something super weird and nutty and ultimately pretty dark, skip this one, but if that sounds like you, make it the first one you watch. It's wild. And the funniest one on the list at the halfway mark is We Summoned a Demon. This one's only 6 minutes. It is a little bloody and it is funny. It's got some pretty decent effects for such a small movie. The actors in it are funny, the concept's funny, the lighting's kind of cool even though it's mostly just red lights. This one really works for one, and it's also only got a few hundred views. I don't know if it did well in festivals or what, but as far as YouTube's concerned, this almost doesn't exist, so definitely give this one a little bit of a bump, but be warned, this one's got a lot of blood, but it's so much, I'm really not even sure that you could get turned off by it because it's a comical amount of blood. Before going to the top 5, if you like this type of content, definitely click that subscribe button and be sure to click the little bell icon so you get notified when I put out new videos like this one, but different. The most artfully done one on this list is The Sermon. This one revolves around like a religious town that finds out that there's a evil homosexual living among them, and it's beautifully shot. It almost looks like Paul Thomas Anderson filmed this one or something. It's really well put together. The angles work in terms of telling the story. There's a lot of dialogue, but it's mostly a sermon. The story is actually coming across and what's not being said. This one worked really well for me. Not one of the scary ones on this list, but it's chilling and it's dark. Okay, now for one of the scarier ones on this list, The Thing in the Apartment is pretty cool. A woman gets a phone call from a frantic friend. She found something in her apartment that may or may not actually be there. It's wild. This is a creepy one. There's a scarier one a little further down the list, but if you want to get scared, this would be a great one to start with as well. Before going on to my top 2, I've got one honorable mention. This is in case you watch all of them and you want another one to watch. This one's called Curve. Now, I love the concept of this one. I felt like the delivery ultimately, even though it's really well shot, it's really well acted, I felt like the delivery ultimately did not work for me, which is why it didn't make the list. But this is about someone who finds himself stuck on this, what can only be described as like a cement curve, and there's like this what might be a bottomless pit, and they have to try to climb out. I love this concept almost more than any of the other ones I've talked about, which is why I was disappointed I didn't feel like it worked. Maybe it'll work better for you. If it does, let me know in the comments. Exit is possibly the slowest one on this list, and at 12 minutes there's not a lot that happens, and there's a lot of dialogue to set it up, but the payoff is worth it. That's why I've got it ranked at number 2. I absolutely love the concept. This was subtle, but different than anything I'd ever seen, whether it be in a short or a feature. I don't want to say anything more than that other than to prep you. This one's not going to give you nightmares. This one's not going to have jump scares that terrify you. The concept of this one is so new and different to me, and unlike Curve, I thought it was really well delivered. Plus, it relies heavily on some really killer performances, and almost number 1. That one's 12 minutes. My number 1 pick, believe it or not, is only 5 minutes long. It's called Larry. It's a little bit funny, but it's one of the scarier ones on this list, and it's just delivered perfectly. It's about a guy that's a security guard. He's not a security guard. He's manning a parking booth, so he's alone in an empty parking lot. He finds something let's just say he finds reading material in the booth, and nightmares ensue in just a matter of 5 minutes. Another reason this one works so well, practical effects that work well, pacing and tension that work. I'm talking about it almost longer than it takes to watch it. If you're not sure, maybe you haven't gotten into shorts before and you just want to dabble and check it out, no reason to not start with number 1. Start with Larry. If you like that experience, move on to the other ones on the list. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope some of you who aren't used to watching short films maybe get turned on to the idea of doing it. You could watch all of these and be as entertained or more than you could be by renting a new release horror movie. But I will make more list of short films if this video gets enough views, likes, comments, I can't tell you what that number is. I have a number in my head. So be sure to click the like button, comment, share this. If you know somebody that will just love getting horror short recommendations, click the share button, send it to them, share it on your social media. We'll see if this could maybe be a new regular installment for me to recommend short films. If you want to support the channel, you can become a Patreon supporter like one of these fine people. They're doing a fantastic job of keeping this channel alive, but I will make more content like this as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking out this special episode, and you will see me on the next one.